Cool. I think we're live.
We are. Looks like it. So, Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to the Thriving Muslim Coach. It's your host, as usual, Asya and Siwash. Hope you're all having an amazing evening or morning, afternoon, wherever you're joining us from. And welcome to another episode, right?
Yep. So today we're gonna talk about something I think that's really crucial in building a successful coaching business. In fact, I think that building any successful, building anything successful, whether you want to build a business or if you want to become a successful athlete, right? I think this is such a crucial piece. So as you can see, the title is "What are you believing about yourself that you know is holding you back?" And we're gonna dive into this. We're gonna share a bit of our own stories. There's a lot of things that were holding me back when I started. And as we are talking about this, I want you to start thinking about this for yourself, and just really slow down and reflect on this. And here's the thing: if you'd like, wherever you're watching this, share it with us in the chat. If you don't feel comfortable sharing it in the chat, in the comments, then just private message us. But yeah, one of the reasons we want to share this is because I think is to show you, right, that number one, you're not a special snowflake. This is something that my coach used to say to me, and I thought, what do you mean, right? Because I used to think like, oh, this, it's me. I'm going through all this stuff. Everyone else like is just like doing really well. They're not going through these difficulties. Why is this happening to me, right? Why? Who's I've been picked on, right? Who else can relate to this? Yeah.
And I think
So,
also, like,
mhm.
it's also, there is this perception online, right? Um, there is this perception online that it's just a me thing, right? It's
Mm,
everyone else is doing great, and I don't know why I'm not nailing this. Like I should have got it. The penny should have dropped. And the truth is everyone shares highlights. And as much as we share a lot of value, we talk about a lot of different concepts, we also want to share about the things that we've gone through or the things that we've seen some of our clients go through, because actually that's what it takes to build a business. And I think people shy away from talking about that, but actually it's one of the core elements, right? The journey is is something that can't be avoided. And the more you really understand that it's not just a you problem, the more you're able to not just overcome it but understand how you can thrive from it.
mm, yeah, yeah, exactly. So let's play with this. And here's the thing, by the way, right? I'm gonna share a bit about my experience 5 years ago. But as I was reflecting while Asi was talking, this is not something that, by the way, it just you take care of at the beginning and then it's done. Because actually there are things right now, if I would really think about this right now, there are probably things right now that I know about myself that's holding me back, right? And while I start playing with this in the first year, there's times where I get very distracted and I focus back on, like, what do I need to do to earn more? What do I need to do to create better results? What do I need to do to make more money? Right? And here's the thing: the question is, and a lot of you probably can relate to this, right? A lot of times our clients come into sessions, right, and say like, "Hey, what do I need to do to double my income? What do I need to do to go from 5 to 10,000 a month? Or how do I make my first 6 figures? Right? What do I need to do to grow from 10 to 20,000 a month?" And the thing is, we do that. It's almost like a default way of thinking, right? So it's not a bad way of thinking. It just is, right? For a lot of us, it's the default way of thinking, and something that we've been doing a lot more, right, intentionally, especially the last 3 months, 6 months, right? We've been doing this on and off like throughout the years, but doing this a lot more intentionally is just really focusing on who do we need to be to create our goals, right? But before we like, so that I just want to kind of park that there and now take you back, right? Take you back to like when I started, for example, right? I was constantly thinking like, hey, you know what? I can work hard. I work 12 hours a day in a job, right? I was working like 6, 7 days a week, and I'm gonna take action. I'm gonna like go all in, right? And I'm gonna make this happen. What do I need to do? So there was constantly like I would message people. I would message coaches that I thought were successful. I would constantly ask people like, what do I need to do? Tell me what's next, right? And the thing is, what was getting in the way is my own thinking around, am I really good enough to make this happen? Right? Can I really do this? Am I communicating powerfully enough? Right? And sometimes the hard thing was I couldn't see myself really being a successful coach. I thought, you know what, like I'm not really that disciplined, like yeah, when someone's paying me, I was showing up, right? But I would often sleep late, and I thought maybe, hey, you know what, you know, I'm sleeping late, I'm enjoying watching TV shows, movies, and in the morning I didn't feel like that excited and motivated to do work, right? And so all these things were coming in the way, right? Because I thought like, hey, maybe it's just not in me to be like really successful, right? And so my thinking was all the time around like, hey, can I do this? Can I really do this? And what shifted for me, right? What shifted for me is working with my second one-on-one coach, right? This is the third coach actually that I hired. And he in one session he asked me like, "What is your 5-year goal?" And I said, "Well, my 5-year goal is to have 5 clients that paid me 50,000 each." And by the way, at this moment, I think I was charging 3,000 for 3 months, and I was charging 10,000 for a year, but I had no clients at a year. In fact, I don't think anyone was paying me 3,000. Most people, they were just paying me what they could, which was only a few hundred per month, right? And he asked me like, okay, who do you need to be to create that 50K, to create clients at 50K? Who do you need to be to have a business that brings in 250,000 a year? Who do you need to be to have clients pay you 50,000? And initially like, I thought I really stopped there because I never really thought about that question. And then he gave me a few different questions. He said, well, how would a 50,000 pound coach approach his work? How would he dress? How would he read books? How would he prepare for his sessions? Right? How would he, plan his, how would he approach his day? Would he plan his day? Would he just go into it? And all these questions got me really thinking. And I realized like, hey, I'm actually, right? I wrote all these things down and we start talking about this. And then I realized like, hey, you know what? This is that 50K coach and here's me, right? I'm approaching my work in a very different way. And that created a shift for me, right? In a playful way, I start thinking, well, hey, maybe I can do some of those things right now, and I start taking little steps,
Hmm.
right?
I just want to stop you there for a second. You said obviously you approached it in a playful way. Um, but just for like everyone else here, I'm guessing it wasn't an overnight change, right?
No, 100% not. I think, well, it wasn't an overnight change because I think a lot of these, it's very easy for the old way of thinking to come back, right? But I think something shifted, right? It's almost like, you know, you drive, if you drive to work, right? And you always take a route that takes you 2 hours, and all of a sudden you find a route that's 30 minutes, you just never take that route again, right? So something shifted inside in terms of like, hey, there's a different way I can approach this. While it wasn't perfect, there's a shift, there's an insight, right? And I think that distinction for me was like, hey, I don't need to focus all the time like on what do I need to do today, but it was more like, hey, What would I do if I was already a 50K coach? And right, and one way to think about it is, rather than thinking about your goal as a place to get to, right? Like we often like, I remember the first event I went to as a coach, um, yeah, I think it's the first event, like a business event. Um, the speaker facilitator asked like, what are your goals? What's your 12-month goal? And everyone said 100,000, right? And we were all thinking about, what do we need to do? How much do we need to earn every month? And we like, I love math, so I started thinking about like, this is what I need to do every day. This is how much I need to earn every week, right? But this kind of like this question, right? This question around like, who do you need to be, shifted all of that, because I wasn't so much focused on like, what do I need to do? I was focused on like, well, who do I need to be today, right? And it got me naturally. It just shifted me, to think differently, to approach my work more as a professional, right? Because all of a sudden I just realized like, hey, you know what? I'm not approaching it even closely like a professional that actually can have a successful business or kind of make six figures, right? So there was a shift there, and then I think it's just taking little steps. But here's the amazing thing, and I think it's scientifically proven, right? That when we act as if, something starts shifting on the inside,
Yeah.
right? When we act as if, something starts shifting. Because all of a sudden, in communication with potential clients, in communication with clients, right? I would slow down and really think to myself, well, how would a 50K coach respond here? And then I would get creative. And here's the thing, by the way, it takes courage. It doesn't happen overnight, right? Like it doesn't just like, you don't just wake up and all of a sudden you're like, you have all this power within you, right? But I think like, for me, like it took courage to actually say, you know what, let me respond like this. And here's the thing, when you're focusing on a goal, like, I need 20 clients to hit my goal, you often just you often try to impress the other person. You try to like please them, and talk them into working with you. I've done that, right? And I think I see this a lot with coaches, is that unfortunately we want to work with a client more and the client want to work with us, right? And the moment we shift that, right, the moment we shift that, we can come from a different place. But yeah, let me slow down for a sec. There's a comment here from someone on Facebook. Believe people I can help won't find me, as other coaches are more known. How will the people I can help know who I am? Yeah. How do I reach out to potential clients? How to build relationships so people trust me to work with me? Yeah, I love that. Right. That's probably a belief most of us have when we started. People I can help won't find me. There are other people more known, right? There are too many coaches. Yeah, I love what Aslam says here, right? Self-image is holding one back. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and that's what we're really talking about here, right? Because the beliefs that we have about ourselves is in a way, is very much connected to that self-image. So tell me, like, um, how is it for you? What are some beliefs maybe that in the past that have stopped you from creating what you want and held you back?
Yeah, I think I resonated with a lot of what you said. Um, I think for me there was a lot around like what if I fail? Like it was the fear of failure. That was like a huge belief for me. And more so because I felt like I had something to prove um by coming into coaching and leaving everything behind. And that was like a really big thing. So that was like a constant belief that I felt like really stopped me from being bolder,
Hmm.
right? Um, so that was like a really big thing. And then one other or a few couple of other beliefs was like this need for perfection, right? We've been working together for a few years now, and I'm like one of those people who um it's either perfect or nothing. And it's like an all or nothing kind of mentality. And that really, that mentality, that belief really stopped me for a really long time, because I would constantly be evaluating. Yeah, Zara, I completely relate. I didn't even see that. um but that was a really big one for me, because it was, I was constantly self analyzing everything that I put out there. And a bit like
Mm.
what someone else said earlier, it was, I was like thinking, oh, well, there are coaches more known than me. There are people that have been in this industry for, 10, 15, 20 years. And I want to be at that level, but I've just started. And so that was a really big, like, belief for me. Um,
Mm.
and then, am I really capable? Like, I would look at these coaches, and they'd be able to articulate themselves really well, really, like, write great posts. They'd be reading 10 books a week. And I was just like, am I really capable of playing that game, like, at that caliber? Because, to be very honest, like, I wanted to play at that caliber. That's what I wanted to be at. And it was this constant, like, nagging of, like, am I really capable of reaching there? Like, am I really capable of making 100,000 plus in this business? Like, am I really capable of, charging 10K, 15, 20, 30, 40K? Like, and that was, I think, something that really held me back, was this constant, like, self-talk.
Yeah, yeah, I love that share. And it's funny because we both, love reading books now, and we have, I think there's too many books. We don't even have enough space for books. But I remember, like, even at the beginning, sometimes I used to get headache just reading a book, and
Yeah.
sometimes I would read a book for 10, 15 minutes, and I was like, what did I just read? Right? And it's it's a muscle, right? That through that practice we shift that. Um yeah, so tell me a bit more, like, so I'm sure there's others that are listening to this that can really relate to, like, am I capable of doing this? Like, how am I gonna kind of like, can I succeed? What if I fail? So how did that shift for you?
Yeah. So I think, for me, I'm very much like a person who shifts um by being in action. And I really, like, resonated with the not being disciplined, but I realized a lot of it was just like lack of discipline, and, like you said, building that muscle. And there was this one moment, I don't know if you remember, but we were doing this course with Paul, and he got us to visualize, like, some of our goals. And that was probably the most, I'm a very visual person, right? So for me, like, I resonate with visuals more than I do with anything else. And if I can see it, then I can get to it. um and that was probably the most definitive moment for me, because it shifted my ability to see possibility. And I think that was
Mm.
so powerful, like, really, and not just seeing it, like, we were doing this exercise about stepping into it, right?
Yeah.
So we were doing a little bit about, like, actually installing it, anchoring it. um and that was really, really powerful for me, because it just got my mind to see more. And when you kind of saw it, you couldn't unsee it.
I love that. Yeah. And for just to kind of, for people that maybe don't get that part, just to make it really simple, right? Is that sometimes it's hard to imagine things because we've never done it, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
But the moment we can actually imagine it, the moment we can visualize it, right? And this is used a lot in sports psychology. When when an athlete wants to win a gold medal, right? They actually visualize winning that gold medal, and something shifts, right? Because our mind cannot differentiate between that imagination and reality. So imagine right now, you can think about something that you've done before. The first time is always the hardest, right? How many can relate to that? Like the first client, I was just waiting for that first client. I think it took me 2 months initially starting the business. And then I was like Arnold Schwarzenegger in The Predator. I'm like, yeah, it's bleeding. Now I can kill it. right? But it came from a moment knowing like, hey, I got my first one. If I can do one, I can do 10, right? If I can get 10, I can get 100 clients. And maybe you can't completely relate to that, but right, knowing that, hey, if you can see it, you know your mind has already experienced that, and something will shift.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I love
us,
that you used yeah, I love that you use the sports psychology because I was gonna mention that to say that I
mm,
never realized that that was the process. But myself and you have been reading about sports, and now that we're running marathons and preparing for Ironman, like we're reading a lot about sports psychology, and actually that is what separates the elite athletes from the average athlete. And it's the idea of constantly putting yourself in positions in
mm,
your mind where you're winning and already at the goal, already there at the finish line, even way before you've even started your training. And I think
yeah.
that's what's like a lot of, in the online world, we don't talk about that enough. A lot of people are so
Mm,
caught up in what could happen that they don't give themselves enough opportunity to experience the other side, right?
yeah, exactly. And here's the thing, right? This is not the only thing, right?
Yeah.
This is not the only thing. You do need to take action. You do need to do the effort. In fact, like if we talk about really what it, if you look at, we talked about successful athletes, right? It's just visualizing the end goal, like winning that medal, is not enough. Like the best, if you look at, for example, Michael Phelps, right? He will visualize every single thing. He will visualize all the different scenarios, so all the different things that can actually happen. Because the truth is, it's never gonna be, you know, it's never gonna be going exactly as planned, right? So if we want to take it to the next level, of course, there's so many different layers to this,
Mm.
right? So we're not saying like this is the key to success, but this is such an important part, right? And I put this thing on the screen, this comment on the screen, right? Aslam says, my biggest shift came when I forgave my past. That was a huge thing for me, and I love that because, you know, we go through past experiences and we hold on to that. and,
Yeah.
and for me, like, there's one thing that I just never forget, right? And I think that's why stories are so powerful, right? When we think about an elephant, when an elephant is really small, right? When it's in the circus, they tie a little rope around its leg, and the elephant tries to move, and he can only move, for example, like 2 meters. And after 2 meters, it's pulled back by that rope, and this keeps happening again and again, right? And 10, 15 years later, this elephant is huge. It could easily snap that rope. However, right, the elephant doesn't move further than 2 meters, right? And it's because of that, right? Because of that past experience, right? Because of that past experience, it's conditioned to not go past the 2 meters because it will be pulled back. And I think that's why what Aslam said is so profound, because we all experienced things in the past. Maybe you failed a business previously. Maybe you tried to chase a previous dream and it didn't work out, right? But the truth is, right, your past does not define your future. In fact, like, the past doesn't define you, right, in general. And actually doing that, forgiving yourself is so powerful, because you can actually just start fresh, create the future from the future, create, whatever you want in the present moment. You can create it. So just wanted to comment on that. I think that's such a beautiful and powerful thing. Zara says, so true. I give the word intellectual hoarders with having books all over. Same happening with me. Again, not sure if I get your comment, Zara. Um, but yeah, so I would love to hear more. Like, thank you guys for sharing what's been holding you back. I would love to hear more about that. What are some what are you believing about yourself that is holding you back? And here's the thing, it starts with awareness. If you haven't thought about that, just journal on this. Take 10 minutes and just journal on this and just write down whatever comes up, right? Because it starts with awareness. When we raise our awareness, right, that's when we can start making different choices. When you make different choices, we get different results, right? That's when the shift happens. All right. So, um, so here's the thing, guys. You know, um, Here's the thing. So, two things. Number one, if you found this valuable, right? If you found this valuable, guess what? We're gonna go dive in deeper into this next next Wednesday, because what we're both really passionate about strategy. We love learning about, how we can get better at marketing, how we can get better at skills. You see, we approach our business as athletes, right? It's not just you don't just talk about that because we're doing triathlons and marathons and Ironmans, right? The thing is, even before that, we were approaching our business as athletes, and there's a reason for that, right? It's because when I started, I was really bad at sales. I was really bad at marketing. In fact, I wasn't really good at coaching. I thought I was really good, right? But the thing is, we invested in those skills. We became through practice to being on the court, right? Because remember, you're either a spectator or you're a player on the court. By being on the court, you practice and you get better and better, right? And one of the things that we focus on is who you need to be while you're on the court, right? Because if you only focus on strategy, you only focus on the doing, you only can get so far, right? But when you shift that who you're being, you become more effective, you become more powerful, right? And that's where the magic happens. So if you want to, dive in deep with us, next Wednesday we have a masterclass where we talk about how you can create your first 100K. And here's the thing: if you're already doing that, this can still be really beneficial for you, right? And because we're gonna dive in deep into what's helped us create a business that's doing multiple six figures, right? And a lot of our clients, um, yeah, a lot of our clients have used this to create success. So, if you want to, so next week we'll share more details. But if you're interested, just put masterclass in the comments. Um, and we're gonna dive in deep. We're gonna be on Zoom, so you're gonna have like a safe space to share, a safe space to be coached, right? So we're not just gonna be teaching. We're also gonna create a bit of space for you to be coached by us. Yeah. So if you
Yeah.
want that, again, just put masterclass in the comments, and I'd love to see you there. Aslam, thank you very much for dropping in. Um, and also, just before you go, I would love to hear what is one insight you got from watching this. Remember, you know, to really, there's a lot of information that you maybe heard. There's some things that have been useful. Let's slow down. Let's really think about a takeaway. Think about one insight, one thought, one takeaway. And then the next thing is, what is one tiny action you can take? What's one tiny action you can take based on what you've learned today? Cool. All right. If you're, by the way, if you're watching us on Facebook, we're also streaming this live on YouTube. So, you know, let us know, if you want to, if you want to binge on some awesome trainings, right? You can find us there. Subscribe on YouTube, wherever you're watching this. We'd love to connect with you. For us, it's really about building relationships, right? Okay, so start reading 1, 2 pages a day. Yeah, take little steps. As I said, I would say let go of your past. Yeah, great takeaway. Thank you for sharing, guys. All right, we're gonna wrap up. We're back tomorrow again with another episode of the Thriving Muslim Coach. Look forward to seeing you then. Take care. Assalamu alaikum.